The cathedral trembled as thunder rolled across the sleeping city. Jake stood motionless inside the underground chamber, his father's silver handgun still resting heavily in his hand. Daniel Blackstone was alive. Not only alive, he had planned the entire collapse underground. Victor Hayes slowly closed the security monitor, while Sophia struggled to process what she had just seen. "No," she whispered. "That doesn't make sense. I saw him die." Victor's face remained cold. "You saw exactly what Daniel wanted you to see." Jake stared at the photo again. Daniel boarding the helicopter. Calm, untouched, prepared, like a man already 10 steps ahead. Jake suddenly remembered something his father once told him years ago. The most dangerous people never fight to survive. They fight to control the board before the game even starts. Arthur hadn't been talking about money. He had been talking about Daniel. Victor walked toward a large digital map glowing on the wall. Several red markers suddenly began flashing across the city. Jake frowned. "What is that?" Victor zoomed in silently. Vehicles, moving fast, heading directly toward the cathedral. Sophia's eyes widened. "They found us." Victor nodded once. "Daniel always leaves trackers inside the people he manipulates." Jake's stomach tightened. Then, realization hit him. The file. He grabbed the red file from his jacket. Victor immediately took it and opened the spine carefully. Hidden inside the cover, a microscopic tracking device blinked red. Sophia cursed under her breath. Jake's anger exploded. "He wanted us to come here." Victor looked directly at him. "No, he wanted to see who would protect you." Silence filled the chamber. Jake finally understood. Daniel hadn't been hunting Jake. He had been hunting Arthur's remaining allies. And tonight, Victor had exposed himself. A distant engine roared outside the cathedral. Then another. Black SUVs surrounded the building. Sophia looked terrified. "We have to leave now." But Victor didn't move. Instead, the old man calmly opened another hidden compartment beneath the table. Inside were passports, cash, hard drives, weapons. Arthur had prepared this place for war long ago. Victor handed Jake a small black drive. "This contains partial access to the Circle's financial network." Jake took it carefully. "How do we destroy them?" Victor's expression darkened. "You don't destroy organizations like this from outside." He pointed toward Jake. "You destroy them from the inside." Jake immediately understood what he meant. The inheritance, the offshore accounts, the ownership transfer. The Circle believed Jake was still inexperienced, emotional, predictable. But for the first time, Jake stopped thinking like a victim and started thinking like his father. Above them, gunfire suddenly exploded inside the cathedral. Sophia flinched. "They're inside." Victor turned toward a hidden steel door at the back of the chamber. "There's an escape tunnel beneath the river." Jake looked at him. "What about you?" Victor smiled faintly. "Arthur once saved my life." He picked up a rifle from the wall. "Tonight, I repay the debt." Jake realized what he intended to do. "No. No." Victor stepped closer. "Listen carefully." His voice became deadly serious. "Daniel's greatest weakness isn't power. It's ego." Victor handed Jake a folded document. "He always needs the final move." Jake unfolded the paper. It was a list of hidden shell corporations tied directly to Daniel himself. Illegal ones, unprotected ones. Even members of the Circle didn't know about them. Jake looked up sharply. "He stole from his own organization?" Victor nodded. "For years." Jake finally saw the truth. Daniel wasn't loyal to the Circle. He planned to control it. The old man smiled grimly. "And now you know how to destroy the most powerful man in the world." Heavy footsteps thundered above them. The hunters were getting closer. Victor opened the steel escape door. "Go." Sophia grabbed Jake's arm, but Jake hesitated, then slowly looked back toward Victor. "My father trusted you." Victor's eyes softened briefly. "And now he's trusting you." Gunshots erupted again upstairs. Glass shattered. Men shouted orders. Victor raised his rifle toward the staircase. Jake and Sophia disappeared into the tunnel beneath the cathedral. Seconds later, the underground chamber exploded into violence. Meanwhile, several miles away, Daniel Blackstone sat inside the top floor of a private skyscraper, overlooking the burning city. A glass of whiskey rested beside him untouched. Large screens displayed surveillance feeds from across the city. One of his men stepped forward nervously. "Sir," the cathedral team confirmed contact. Daniel remained silent. "Victor Hayes is resisting." Daniel calmly adjusted his cufflinks. "And Jake?" The man hesitated. "He escaped." For the first time, Daniel smiled. Not anger, not disappointment. Satisfaction. "Good." The man looked confused. Daniel slowly stood and walked toward the massive window overlooking the city lights. "If Jake escaped," he said quietly, "then he finally made the correct move." The employee froze. Daniel's voice became colder. "Arthur's son is finally learning how to think." Back inside the river tunnel, Jake and Sophia ran through knee-deep water beneath the city. Sophia struggled to breathe. "What do we do now?" Jake slowed down. His eyes no longer looked confused or afraid. He looked focused, dangerously focused. He opened Victor's document again, then suddenly stopped walking. Sophia looked at him nervously. "Jake?" Jake stared at Daniel's hidden corporations. Then something clicked inside his mind. A pattern. Transfer route. Emergency liquidation paths. Daniel had secretly prepared a financial escape plan. Billions of dollars, hidden across multiple countries. Jake slowly looked up and smiled for the first time in hours. Sophia blinked in confusion. "What?" Jake folded the document carefully. "He thinks I'm running." Rainwater echoed through the tunnel. Jake's expression darkened. "But I finally understand my father." He loaded the silver handgun calmly, then looked directly at Sophia. "We're not escaping anymore." A distant explosion shook the tunnel ceiling. Jake's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "We're going after Daniel." To be continued. Cold air burst across Jake's face as he and Sophia finally emerged from the underground tunnel beneath the river. The city above looked almost unreal. Police sirens echoed in the distance. Helicopters circled the financial district. Smoke still rose from the burning underground facility far behind them, but Jake no longer looked afraid. He looked focused. Sophia leaned against the wet concrete wall, exhausted. "Jake, we need to disappear before Daniel finds us again." Jake slowly shook his head. "No." Sophia stared at him in disbelief. "You saw what he's capable of." Jake's eyes hardened. "And now I know how he thinks." Rainwater dripped from his black coat as he unfolded Victor's stolen documents once more. Shell companies, emergency escape accounts, private transfer routes. Daniel had hidden billions across the world, but one detail caught Jake's attention: a repeated transfer pattern. Every emergency route eventually led back to one location, Blackstone Tower. Jake narrowed his eyes. "He's not running," he whispered. Sophia frowned. "What?" Jake looked up toward the glowing skyline in the distance. "He's consolidating power." At the very top of the city, one tower remained fully illuminated against the stormy night. Blackstone International Headquarters. Daniel was there. Sophia stepped closer nervously. "Jake, if we go there, we walk directly into his trap." Jake gave a faint smile. "For 15 years I've been reacting to people stronger than me." He loaded the silver handgun slowly. "Tonight, Daniel reacts to me." 30 minutes later, a black sedan stopped silently across from Blackstone Tower. The massive skyscraper looked untouched by the chaos consuming the city. Security guards stood outside. Luxury cars lined the entrance. Executives continued walking through the lobby as if nothing had happened underground. Power protected itself. Jake stepped out of the car first. Sophia grabbed his arm immediately. "If this goes wrong, it already went wrong 15 years ago." Jake interrupted quietly. His eyes never left the tower. Then he walked toward the entrance. Inside, the lobby glowed with polished marble and golden lights. The receptionist immediately recognized him. Fear crossed her face. Before she could speak, Jake placed a black drive onto the desk. "Tell Daniel Blackstone," he said calmly, "that Arthur's son is here." The woman froze. Her hands trembled. Then she quickly picked up the phone. Less than 60 seconds later, the private elevators opened. 2 armed security men stepped out. "Mr. Blackstone will see you now." Sophia looked shocked. He's actually inviting us upstairs? Jake smiled faintly. That means I was right. The elevator rose silently toward the top floor. Higher, 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 until the city itself looked tiny beneath them. Finally, the doors opened. Daniel Blackstone stood alone beside the massive glass windows overlooking the storm. Perfect suit, calm posture, a glass of whiskey in his hand, like a king waiting for his guest. Without turning around, Daniel spoke softly. You finally came. Jake stepped forward slowly. You wanted me here. Daniel smiled faintly at the city lights. No, Jake. He finally turned. I needed to see whether Arthur's son was truly worthy of replacing him. Sophia's blood ran cold. Jake remained expressionless. You destroyed people's lives for power. Daniel walked calmly toward him. Power? He repeated, almost amused. You still don't understand. He pointed toward the city below. Governments collapse every decade. Banks fail. Presidents disappear. But men like me, his voice lowered dangerously, decide what survives afterward. Jake stared at him silently, then slowly removed Victor's document from his coat. The smile on Daniel's face faded for the first time. Jake placed the files onto the glass table. I know about the hidden accounts. Daniel's eyes darkened slightly. Jake continued calmly. The private corporations, the emergency liquidation routes, the money you stole from the circle. Sophia watched Daniel carefully. For the first time, the most powerful man in the room looked surprised. Jake stepped closer. You were never loyal to them. Daniel set his whiskey down slowly. And now you think you've cornered me? Jake looked directly into his eyes. No. He slid the black drive across the table. I think I just destroyed you. Daniel picked up the drive carefully. What is this? Jake's expression never changed. A direct upload link. Daniel frowned slightly. Jake continued. The moment I don't leave this building alive, every hidden account you stole from the circle gets released to every remaining member worldwide. Silence. Heavy, dangerous silence. Sophia suddenly realized what Jake had done. He wasn't threatening Daniel with the police. He was threatening him with his own organization. Daniel slowly looked up. And for the first time in the entire series, Jake saw genuine respect in his eyes. Then Daniel laughed quietly. Not angry, impressed. Arthur's son had finally learned the game. Daniel walked closer until they stood face to face. You planned this? Jake answered coldly. No. A beat of silence. My father did. The storm thundered outside the tower windows. Daniel stared at Jake for several long seconds, then finally smiled again. But this time, there was something darker behind it. Congratulations, Jake. His voice dropped almost to a whisper. You just survived your first move against the circle. Suddenly, every screen inside the office turned black. Then a single symbol appeared. The silver raven. Sophia's face turned pale instantly. Daniel slowly looked toward the screens. For the first time, even he looked unsettled. A distorted voice echoed throughout the office. Mr. Blackstone. The voice sounded cold, ancien, inhumanly calm. You have violated the balance. Jake frowned. Daniel's expression darkened immediately. Then the voice spoke again. The circle has summoned both of you. The screens shut off instantly. Silence returned, but everything had changed. Because Jake finally realized something horrifying. Daniel Blackstone was never the real leader. Daniel slowly stepped back from the glowing screens. For the first time, the man who controlled presidents, billionaires, and governments looked genuinely tense. Jake noticed it immediately, and that terrified him more than anything else. Sophia whispered softly, "Who are they?" Daniel didn't answer. Outside the tower windows, lightning split across the sky. Then suddenly, one of the monitors flickered back on by itself. Static filled the room. A hidden surveillance video began playing automatically. Jake froze. The footage was old, at least 15 years old. The image showed a younger Arthur sitting inside a dark room, bruised, bleeding, terrified. Jake's heart stopped. His father looked directly into the camera. If you're watching this, Arthur's voice cracked painfully. Then it means Daniel failed. Daniel's expression instantly changed. Turn it off. But the system no longer obeyed him. Arthur continued speaking on screen. The circle is not the real enemy. Jake felt cold fear crawl down his spine. Sophia slowly covered her mouth. Then Arthur whispered the words that changed everything. There was another group above them. Daniel suddenly slammed his fist against the desk. Enough! But the recording continued. Arthur's face darkened with fear. They call themselves... Static exploded violently across the screen. The image distorted. Then the video returned for one final second. And behind Arthur, Jake saw a shadow standing silently in the darkness. Dull, motionless, watching. Arthur's final words echoed through the office. If they discover Jake is alive, the screen suddenly cut black. Complete silence filled the tower. Then every light inside Daniel's office shut off at once. Emergency red lights flooded the room. Sophia gasped. Jake immediately reached for his gun. A new voice echoed softly from the darkness behind them. Cold, calm, unknown. Too late. Jake slowly turned toward the shadows near the elevator, and his blood ran cold, because standing there was someone he never expected to see again. Someone who should have been dead. Elena? Sophia whispered in horror, but the woman's eyes looked empty, different, dangerous. Then she slowly smiled and pointed the gun directly at Daniel. You should have killed me 15 years ago. Daniel's face went pale. For the first time, the most powerful man in the world looked afraid. To be continued,